All right, what up? It's Ruben from TGE. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how we scalp QQQ for calls and netted a huge return, over 100% return, zero DTE, intraday trading, or whatever you want to call it, day trading, intraday, scalping. It wasn't really a scalp. It took about an hour to trade this, but let me show you. Here's how we're going to break down this video. We're going to start with the year-to-date performance, community wins, and then also the breakdown. All right. So my year-to-date performance, I'm about to break this 56% year-to-date performance, which is a really good performance. At this point in my trading for the year, I'm way ahead of schedule. Typically, what I aim for is between 35 to 50% by the end of the year performance. And so if you have a six-figure account, you can already see that that makes up a really good amount of extra income salary right there for the year. So with that said, I'm probably going to be sizing down slowly and just slowly grinding my way to maybe 60, 70% is going to be my target for year-to-date performance, but I will be sizing down. And I have until the end of the year, which I still have a whole nother probably 5.5 months. Now for the community wins, if we go to the community board here, and we go to wins. So today we actually, okay, so this was the wins for yesterday, which I'll go over. Erin made 65% in 10 minutes on the QQQ trade before she hopped onto the plane. So we netted a total of, we took majority of our profit here at 113%. We took 29-cent trade all the way to 61 cents, and then we sold the rest at our trailing stop loss. And then Sewell also netted 140% on the trade. Google, these are his own trades, which he's just rocking. He's just killing it with Gextron, which is a tool that I built to help us spot opportunities. And today we closed some positions here on Zeta. This is a trade that we've been in for maybe a few days. It was up higher. The shares were up at 17 or 14%. The calls were up at 50%, but the momentum has died on Zeta for the short term. The long term, I'm very long on Zeta for the long term, but we ended up taking profit here at 8% for the shares, which is still a really solid return. And the Zeta calls, we closed them at 20%. These were 50%, but it is what it is, you know. But the only thing that we care about is that we have momentum, that it's following our rules and our thesis. We keep our sizing in check, which is how I'm able to get this type of performance. And everything is about RVR. All right, let's go into the QQQ trade now. So you can do the same thing, okay? Because that's the main point of this video. I'll show you how to do this so you can do it and you can make money trading as well too. All right. So let's go to the QQQ trade. Now, this was yesterday's recap, which we got in the trade around 10:30 in the day. Let me make sure I got that right. Gotta check my logs here. QQQ, we got on 568 calls. No, that's not it. 566. I got in this trade at 12 o'clock and we practically finished around before 1:30. So what time did I say? 12:17. Okay, so let's take a look at the 30-minute time frame here. 12:17. So it was around this time frame right here. It was pretty much around this area right here. Okay, great. So I'm just gonna, and we finished around 1:30, before 1:30. So I'm just gonna take this back here a little bit. I'm going to replay this back just so it's less noisy. Okay, so here is what was happening, and I believe this is what I was seeing at the time. Now, keep in mind, everything is 0 DTE. Okay, so that means you have to be fast about these things. Okay, so one thing that I saw during this trade setup is that first, what was important about getting into this trade, and the reason I got into calls, is because before I even thought about getting into calls, I didn't know what I was going to get into with QQQ at the time. Was that I needed to check my levels, okay? And so checking the key levels is really, really important. And I'm going to show you exactly how I do that here, okay? So I'm just going to pull up Gextron here, uh, and I'm going to put up the Qs. So now this data is going to change throughout the day, okay? So yesterday's levels were yesterday's levels, today's levels are completely different. Now this is my local environment. Hold on, let me pull up production here. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. So this is QQQs. I guess the images are a little bit bugged, but here are the levels. Okay, so every time I get into before I even get into a trade, I have to know what's the playing field look like, what are the key levels like support and resistance, and all I do is just mark them into my chart. Right, all I'm looking for is P trans, which is the beginning of a bullish sentiment in Gextron. That's really easy to find. All you gotta do is find the first green bar, and it has to have a minimum of 4 green bars to the right, and that marks P trend. So in this case, it's going to be 564.78 because the next 4 are green bars. Okay, it doesn't matter the height or anything. It's just keep it simple, right? For for the opposite, for negative transition, we call it N trans in the Telegram group, and it's the first negative bar, and it has to have 4 negative bars to the left. Okay, so it's pretty easy to spot here. 564 is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so N trans begins at 564 for this QQQ. Now, at the time, let's see if these levels have changed. At the time, it was 563 for P trans, and N trans was 560. And the reason there's such a huge gap, a $3 gap in here, is because typically you'll see something like this where, let me move myself a little bit here. You'll see something where you'll have a lot of like opposite bars, but pretty much next to each other. And so we call that the drunken sailor zone. When we see things like that, we tend to avoid any trades there in that area because it's too many. The dynamics are too different. There's some bullish, and then the next strike is literally resistance, and then the next strike could be support, and it could just ping pong around. And that is how 0DTs get killed instantly. Okay, so overall, avoid any levels between P trans and N trans strikes. Just wait for a clear confirmation because that's essentially what we need in our trade. We need clear confirmation. Also, I have a pill here in the Gextron app where it tells me it's call dominated, which is really good. It just gives me a little bit more of a clear reading. Just like, okay, it's call dominated, great. Now this is today's data. This isn't yesterday's. So yesterday, this is what we had. P trans was at 563, so that means bullish sentiment started at 563, and then we had some support areas here because price in the opening opened up around 565, and all these levels 565, 564 were areas of support. Okay, it really depends on the context of price. Is it going towards a key level or is it coming down to a key level? If it's coming down to a key level, it's a level of support, and so that's like price starting here at 570 and then falling back to 567 in this case. That 567 should be a level of support. And then we use the option tape to see if we can see things like this to make sure that it's supporting the thesis, the level. But that's in the pro dashboard, which I'll show another day. Or if you look at other videos, there's some other ones there. All right. So, okay, going back to this. So I mark the key levels, right? And the only thing I'm looking for, if I go back to this, is tall bars. That's all I'm looking for. Tall bars are what we call areas of interest. Okay, doesn't matter. It could be both on positive or negative bars, but that's essentially what we need to do. So once we figure out P trans and N trans, the next step is figuring out what are the areas of interest. And Gextron tells me that so easy because I just got to look at the chart and be like, oh, okay, it's 567, 570. 565, I'm not going to consider that. On the downside, we have entrance, and then we have 555, and then we have 550. Perfect. And all I do is just mark those levels, which is these purple lines, these magenta color lines: 568, 565, 564. Now, everything I teach inside my community and also my students is about RVR. That's the biggest edge that we have. When you join the Telegram group, you're gonna see a series of losers, but when we have winners, they really wipe out all the losses, and then we make more profit. And that's how I'm able to get this type of return, which is the 56% so far. And the reason for that is because when you have a solid position size managing, and then you have a solid risk versus reward. Like if you could do a 1 to 3, you really don't need a high win rate to even break even. You just need something that you keep your losses really small, but your win is very, very big. And so that's damn, Kevin made money on the 0 DTE, 76% return on QQQ. Pretty happy. That's pretty awesome. Zeta. Rodney is new to the membership and he's just been winning. All right, sorry. Going back to this, it's all about risk versus reward. That's how we're able to win. That's how we're able to stay profitable by the end of the year. Okay, and so when I was getting into the trade at the time, and I got in around what time was that? 12:17. Let's just break it down to the 15-minute time frame here, so we can be a little bit more specific here. Okay, what was I looking at here? Let's see. So I was looking at 12:15. 12:15. Okay, so I got in around this time frame. All I know is that volume was somewhat steady, okay? Nothing super low. There's been some really much lower levels, and we are in areas of support, almost back to back, right? 565, 564. I think of them as areas. Don't think of them as hard spots, okay? And I knew that probably my loss, I would have cut the trade off if we were here below 564, because testing 563 is almost like you don't want to get it to that level, okay? Because that could be kind of dangerous, especially from here, and especially if it's 0 DTE, right? That's a big, big movement. So this is about a one. Okay, so with that said, these were the lows: 565 and 568. Above 565, I said if price can get back to above 565 and claim the VWAP, we can potentially see 568, which is a huge gap, right? That's about what is that? Let's see where that is. That's about a $2.76 move, which would be huge for QQQ, making the QQQ 0 DTs a potential 500% return. Okay, that's essentially what I was looking for. But remember, you have to be reactive, very quick with 0 DTE. So of course, when I looked at this trade, I said, perfect. We're in a bullish zone. We have levels of support right now. As long as if we reclaim VWAP and volume is looking healthy, then we could potentially see higher and maybe even 568. Okay, and so we took the trade at 12:17 p.m. Eastern time, and then the chat just went crazy because literally. Literally we scored so heavy. Like that's how we were able to see those returns on the school community: 83%, 80%. It just like it started to wake up, right? And so it reclaimed VWAP. I saw that and as it was going above VWAP, I said, perfect. Now let's see if it can reclaim above 565. And it popped. And that's when we took the majority of our money. And then this pullback here was our trailing stop loss. We were saying, okay, we got to cut this off uh, because it could come back down even harder to 565, and we don't want to give back the profits that are made. So as you're making money and you're hitting targets, right? Typically the way we set targets is like, okay, if we're sub underneath this key level, our first profit taking zone should be around this area right here, right? And it practically went above that. So we took majority of our profits here, and then we had to set a trailing stop loss. in zero DTEs, because we were up so high and they were just runners at this point, I gave myself about a 50% drawdown on the profits. So just in case it needs some breathing room, then I could just give it that breathing room. And in case it decides to go back up higher, then we could have done this. And then my next profit taking zone would have been the next key area level. So really, when you're trading, it doesn't really get very complicated. The trading strategy is so simple. Most of the time, you don't even have to think about what are the key levels, because Gextron is always looking at the option market to figure that out for you. It's not even looking at historical data, which is what I think where most traders fail. You look at yesterday's news or an hour ago's news, it doesn't really matter. The market only cares about the future. And so Gextron does that all the heavy lifting for us. I don't really have to think about it. I just have to plot it in my chart. And then I just play key level to key level. And if you're playing zero DT, this is a big move. This is from here to here. That's about at least a 40% move, 50% move. And then from here to here, that would be a 500% move easy, right? So when you're trading, just play key level support to, support and resistance to support and resistance, or I just call it areas of interest. That's what we call it here inside the Telegram group, and just use a tool that's forward looking, using the option premiums to your advantage. And then you could use also like real-time option tape to see, like, is it supporting the move right now? Yes or no. And if it is, awesome. It gives you more confirmation to why you need to get in. I think that's it. Let me see. Okay. That's pretty much it. That's today's current performance. Gotta like these people. Cut the QQQ trade yesterday with sauce and damn. Yeah. There we go. Zeta. Rodney has just been killing it. Rodney, you're just killing it. Awesome. All right, that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. If you want to trade with us, I'll put a link in the description so you can check that out. There are some requirements in there, so it's not for everybody. The contracts we pick are not always as cheap as the zero DTEs, but we do get them now and then. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.